Good evening, everyone. It's Tuesday, September 19th at 7:35. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Board of Finance to order. The first item on our agenda is always public comment. We have some staff in the room, but no guests. And Jen, I assume we didn't receive any email in?
We did not.
Okay. So I'm going to take a motion to slightly adjust the agenda and move up items 3 and 4 because Pam Geary, our Director of Public Works, is here, and those pertain to some items that we're going to talk to her about. And so I'd like to move those up so we can get her out of here.
Thank you.
Great. So item.
We got to vote.
Oh, sorry. Take a motion.
So moved.
Rob moves. John seconds. All those in favor? It's unanimous. So we're going to flip to item 3 here, which is to discuss and take action on a request for a transfer of $11,906 to the Parks and Rec capital for a new mower.
Great, thank you.
We did ask for public comment.
So this is a little lengthy, so I just want to go ahead and read that. In September 2022, we received a quote of $86,000 from TPC Turf Products for the Toro Grandmaster 4500 mower as part of our capital improvement plan. Expecting approval delays, we requested $90,000 to account for potential cost increases. In June 2023, after it was approved, we tried to order the mower for TPC Turf Products, who have a qualified bid through Sourcewell Purchasing Cooperation. They informed us of an 18 to 24-month manufacturing and delivery time frame and a 4% November price hike that we didn't account for because it would have been a year later. The current quote is $101,905 with the 8% increase. That 8% increase is an increase from November 2023 coming up. And then if the mower is not delivered by November 2024, that would be part of the 8% increase. If delivered before November 2024, a $3,560 credit reduces the total to $98,345. We also are requesting that TPC Turf Products is the sole source for this mower. We prefer Toro equipment due to the past reliability and ease of maintenance with interchangeable parts among our existing mowers. The 2 mowers that we currently have will also share cutting decks. Our request is to transfer $11,906 from the McGuan Patio and Foundation Capital Improvement Project for the Toro Groundmaster 4500. The potential total cost is $101,906, but if it arrives pre-November 2024, as I said, the price will only be $98,345, requiring an $8,345 transfer.
Okay. Nice. Any questions from the board?
My only question is, so there's no incentive to them to get this to us by November 24, right?
I don't know that there's not any incentive because it could arrive before them, but it's just that 18 to 24. And according to Sandy, our park supervisor, there's not a lot of these built, so they order it and start building it. And of course, then there's the shipping issues. So it's likely, and we have already gone and ordered it prior to this approval because we could cancel it, but we figured we'd get the order in, so it's in.
Okay.
And with your approval, it will just continue to move.
Is it typical for equipment like this to have price increases even after we've ordered the equipment?
Yeah, for this company, yes. Every November, it's a 4%. So I can't answer for other companies, but this company, that's how they operate.
Okay. Jen, maybe just a technical question here. If this was to, I guess, do we pay a deposit? And if this was to push past June of 24, would this still be part of our our fiscal 24, or would it move to actually the 25?
Because it's capital, it would move to 25. Whatever we don't pay by June 30th would be a 25 capital expense.
Got it.
And it just, the quote says that they could raise the price at their discretion. It says, while it is our intent to hold this pricing is subject to change due to factors that are beyond our control, basically.
Yeah, I think
So-
that's typically in there, but it's been, stated to Sandy that this would be, right here, the numbers, that if we get to 2024, it will only be the 11.9. If it gets there before, we would have the savings of the 3560.
But you actually have this, what we see in here, this was the quote, which you then subsequently actually kind of signed and formally ordered?
Right, so now we're signed. So I think
Okay.
what you're seeing there, right, is standard language in that quote.
Okay.
Got it. So maybe just big picture on this, this isn't a sort of although it's expensive piece of equipment, the marginal amount's not that expensive. Do we own all of our sort of mowers, and do we lease any?
No, they're all owned, and we do all our own, I'd say 98% of our own service on them. So our crew has the skill set to be able to do a lot of in-house work, which is great, saving the town a lot of money every year.
Okay. Any other questions?
The only thing that I would ask is, are there any possible payment terms that would allow us to freeze the price? If we give them
That's a
the full
good
purchase
question.
price in
That's a good
advance?
question. I don't have the answer for that.
Might be worth asking no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's something just to look at. How much, we do or do not pay a deposit on this?
I would have to get that information for you.
Okay.
But, it is a good question. I wonder if we can get the approval with the pending question into the company, whether we can lock in,
Okay.
if we put something down on it.
Well, this amount is covers it through the higher increase, right?
Mhm.
So small dollars, but they all add up, so maybe just check into it.
Right,
But
I would.
I'm comfortable with this.
Sure.
Okay, so I'll accept a motion to transfer $11,906 from McGuan Patio and Foundation Project to the Toro 4500 large mower account. Taylor moves. Paul seconds. All those in favor? It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. And I guess while we have you up here, number 4 at the top. Yeah. The next item is to discuss and take action on a request for a transfer of $8,000 to the Parks and Recreation Pear Tree construction bid.
Right, so as you know, we do have an approved capital improvement plan for pear tree construction bid. And as we started to consider more about this construction bid and realize how much work, detailed work goes into the dredging, to the boat ramp, to the parking lot, the state approvals, we thought that it was brought to my attention that obtaining a probable cost estimate before pursuing the construction bid offers several benefits. It provides a clearer understanding of the project scope, potential challenges, and costs involved. This helps in refining project details, identifying potential issues, and making informed decisions early on. Having a cost estimate also allows us for more accurate budgeting and helps avoid surprises during the bidding process. Ultimately, a well-prepared estimate increases the chances of receiving competitive and accurate bids from contractors, leading to a smoother construction process and better cost control. And that estimate came from Weston and Sampson. So that would be on top of the 30.
I was unclear. What is the 30, and what is the, that's not the cost of the project. This is,
No, it's a construction bid. To go out to bid to get a,
so we have to pay to put the bid package together? Is that what
Yes.
this is? So it costs us now $38,000 to just put together a request for people to get paid to do work.
right? Because we really don't have a refined overall cost for the project. You
How
know,
much do we pay for bid packages on the schools?
Well, I think this is what we're doing on the, on the schools. We'll pay for somebody to come in and put together actual detailed engineering, exact schematic diagrams, which they then sort of, if you will, like kind of post to the bid site. So when
Sure.
they're coming in, they're bidding on actual
right,
specific dollar amount to do exactly what you have on the piece of paper. And I think what we've I think what we've learned in some of our projects is that the more vague the bid contract is, the more opportunities there are for the winning bidder to come back and say, well, you were vague on this, so this is going to be an add-on to the cost. And so I do think the more specific we are,
Right.
because
I see
ultimately,
the benefit of that,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, how much does it cost us to put those packages together for the school? Is the same amount?
So that was like 200, wasn't it?
yeah, I mean, that was, yeah,
250?
So it's
I
part
think
for
we
the
debated
course,
it
the size of the
a
project.
couple of meetings ago, I think we had it that
Yeah.
on our agenda. It was either 2 or 250, wasn't it? Jen, was that that number?
We did a master plan for Trumbull over a year. It took a year and $250,000 to analyze all our buildings from top to bottom. But that is not to the bid stage yet. But we're asking them to go back. We've highlighted 1 or 2 buildings that we want to start with, and they're going to develop drawings for that.
yeah, I know we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, for instance, on the school, designing the exact bid contracts, pipe sizes, ventilation sizes, everything that ultimately the contractors come in and bid on. And I think, you know, I mean, Dan has a lot of experience, you know, obviously with Oxbridge, but it's, you need to kind of have that.
And right
those
now,
type
we
of
have,
engineering
you know,
documents.
3 million kind of set aside in our capital improvement plan, but it's not the probable cost estimate. It's just, it's not as tight.
Yeah. And I think as a reminder, it's a little bit of what this includes. This includes work in the parking lot, creating the, I forgot what they call the retention,
Kind of filling the tub.
yes.
I mean, do we have a ballpark estimate on the project?
Ballpark is 3 million.
Yeah.
So it was a legit estimate, it wasn't just a placeholder, it was.
No, it
like
was, yes,
ballpark.
but it was,
Yeah.
he didn't want to be held to it. Weston Sampson, it was about
Right,
2.5 to 3 million, because there really is a lot of detail behind, you know, dredging and pulling, and depending on whether they dry the material there on site, if they can. If they can't, then they gotta haul it out, and that costs more money. So there are some, I think that it does need a deep dive.
But these are the specific documents that allow us to get a bid, to give us a dollar specific
Right.
amount that we'll approve.
I mean, not to drag this out, but how long does it take to put that package together, like,
The construction bid,
yeah?
depending on, Weston Sampson's handling, I think they've already started, since they've been involved with this project for 4 years now. So he's got a good handle on the details, but to actually price it out and get us an accurate estimate in order to put it in our capital improvement plan and when we put it in there.
So there's a couple steps here. You create the actual schematic diagrams, and then you hire a professional cost estimator to come in and look at those and say, this is what I think it's going to cost, to give you an idea,
Right.
again, what the entire package is going to be like. Then you're putting those actual engineering specs and so forth onto the website, which, you know, third-party firms come in and bid on. So this.
So that whole package is $38,000 now?
But I also think that it's going to give the town an idea as to when the timeline for this project is. So if it comes back and it's a $5 million project, then perhaps that's not a fiscal '25. Maybe that's got to be pushed out a year because we have other projects ahead of it, or it comes in less and it becomes more manageable. So I think that is going to help with the timeline.
Listen, I think this is really for the cost estimation, right? I think that's a good part of this overall process, because it allows us to have a better idea of what we're ultimately approving for the project, and
Right.
you know, so we're not approving 3 and then ultimately it's going to be 5 or
Right.
1. So, any other questions on this? Okay, I'll accept the motion to transfer $8,000 from the Board of Finance's capital reserve into the Pear Tree construction bid to be used for the, you know, the cost estimate. Dan moves, Paul seconds. All those in favor? It's unanimous.
Greatly appreciated.
Pam, thanks.
Have a great night. Thank you for moving me up.
And Pam, thank you for adding us all to the list on the agendas. Allows us to kind of keep up on everything like this. Hope you guys all should have received what's going on with the Parks and Rec Commission. They're going to include us on all their agendas going forward. Okay, so back to item 1 on the agenda. It's discuss and take action on a number of fiscal year 2023 year-end transfers. Jen?
What you have are 14 transfers that are needed to close out fiscal '23. It's a technicality. We end up in this position every year, but we have overs and unders throughout the year. These are the ones that we couldn't, either we couldn't anticipate, or we used our discretion. We said let them run because we know that we have funds somewhere else and we don't know what the final number is going to be. We didn't want to come back to you every month chasing our tail on it. So what you have is each transfer, you have all the detail where the money's going to come from, where it's going to, and the description of it. And what we can do on this one is do these in total if you want. If you have any questions on specific items, we can discuss them. And then when you're comfortable, you can make a motion to approve all of them.
Jen, my only question on these is, and I think it's spelled out, but I wanted to confirm, on number 14, the solid waste disposal.
Yep.
So we're basically paying another 45, but it looks like we generate 280,000 extra dollars for that?
Yes.
So that's great. Okay.
Yeah, the increased revenue more than offsets what we're over on the expenditure side.
That was the only one I had a question on.
Jen, on item 7, the employee benefits, the accrued leave, is this just an estimate of sort of what we think we may have to pay out each year with respect to turnover?
Our budget is an estimate. It's not a very good estimate, and we don't budget the full amount that we expect because we know that we'll have savings in salaries, medical insurance due to a period of vacancy or hiring at a lower rate. We had historically been budgeting 100,000, but in fiscal '24 we bumped it up to 150, I think, which is a little bit more realistic. But the amount, the 125 for the transfer is the actual, for the fiscal year, we spent a total of 225,000 on accrued leave payouts for separations and retirements and the police sick leave exchange, which was not in place at the time the budget was put together, and that was about $76,000, I think.
So some took advantage of that new part of the contract?
Many did.
And I think that while it's additional money we spent this year, it's dollars that we won't spend in a subsequent year, right?
Right.
So it kind of zeroes out what we owe, potentially. It starts accruing again.
Well, so on the police one?
Yeah.
They'll have the opportunity again next year if they want to cash in time. You know, it could be that some of them, they cashed in what was fully available. They might not have that much available next year. They may decide that they don't want to cash it in.
It's just five days per year, I think, max?
6.
6?
Yep. And I believe everyone that cashed in, I think, what do we have? 33 of them. I think they all cashed in the 6 full days.
And they cash it into, what is it, a 457 or a?
Yeah, they directed it. They cash it in and then the contribution goes into the 457.
How many bargaining groups have that type of arrangement?
Only the police department.
So Jen, are we going to just, do we increase the accrued number then, just in case for this?
In the next year budget?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. We bumped it up $50,000. That was our best guess at the time. So we may fall short on that because we cashed in almost 80,000 this year, but I think we'll be in a better position with that next year.
So we basically put in 100 and it came out to 225.
Right.
Jen, the 4 public works transfers all use full-time salary account to fund the transfer?
Yes, that is in the roads division, and they carried vacancies throughout the
So
year.
$94,000 total across the 4, and it was because of vacancies
Yes.
in the roads. Thank you.
Yeah, Jen, back on the accrued benefit transfer, I think it's a good option because it smooths out over time rather than sort of having larger, like back-ended ones. Is there a certain time of year that they have to make that decision such that you'll know around budget time whether or not we are?
No, I think the contract has them, there is a certain time of year, I want to say that it's May. So it doesn't work for the budget, so we'll just have to go off of historical and do our best. Once we get a couple years of history, we'll probably have a better feel for it. But we'll see.
Okay.
And Jen, just staying on that one topic again, how long can they roll forward?
Sick time?
Yeah.
Sick time does not expire. You can carry forward an indefinite amount for your entire time here.
And this allows us to take up to 6 days per year, cash it in, we deposit it in effectively a 401k-ish type 401a, 457 plan, and then it kind of disappears then from our balance sheet, if you
Right.
will.
Because many of them are still eligible if they retire with more than a certain amount of sick time, it would be paid out at retirement. So part of this was twofold: to have it paid out at current rates rather than future rates, but also to reduce possible overtime from sick time. So if they're saving their sick time because they want to cash it in, then that's not available to use and incur overtime.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, I'll accept a motion to approve all of the fiscal year 2023 year-end transfers 1 through 14 as laid out on our agenda. Rob moves. John seconds. All those in favor? Unanimous. Now, next item is simply a review, that doesn't require any action on our part, but these are all of the fiscal year 2023 administrative transfers that kind of fall within the bounds that our board has set, right, Jen?
Right. You have given certain authority to my position and then some in conjunction with my approval and the town administrator's approval. Before we go into the summary, what I want to call your attention to on page 9 of the administrative transfers, page 10, there's a grade block. This was one for $112,000 within the police department related to their full-time, or their contract settlement and their full-time salaries. So the administrative authority that you have granted allows the town administrator and me to together approve any amount as long as it's going from a like account to a like account, so full-time to full-time. When we settled the police contract, part of it was their one-time cash payment of $1,500 per active participant, and that was in place of additional wage increase. So the way that Kate and I looked at it, we debated it a little bit, and we thought that it met the requirements because it's really contract settlement was in place of full-time salary. So we moved from various full-time salaries where they had savings from vacancies to cover the contract settlement, and the full-time salary increases where they needed additional dollars because they didn't have vacancies. So we did that one, but that was really skewing the total administrative transfers. So if we go back to the summary on page 1, you'll see that it says without PD contract settlement. So without that one, we had a total of $204,000 of administrative transfers across 199 requests. It's more than in prior years, and what's really driving it is Park and Rec. They had about $78,000 across 57 requests. And looking at them, they had a lot of transfers, but nothing was really significant. They just had the need to move a lot of money around within their budget. They still finished the year within budget. The largest one that they had was about $7,800 because they had to increase the hourly wage for lifeguards. They were able to move that within their seasonal and temporary accounts that they have in different divisions. But that's the total for the year.
Jen, when we push the budgets back here to our department heads to start creating the budgets for fiscal 25, how do they, is this all incorporated in terms of what they see for planning next year?
They do. They see 3 years of actuals as well as the current year budget, current year to date when they start working on it. So they can see the history, and so can Kate and I when we review them. So one thing that Kate does as part of her review is she calculates the percent change over various historical numbers, not just current year budget, so that she can try to catch where, well, historically, you're budgeting it here, and historically, you're spending it here, let's get them lined up. So we're able to do quite a bit of that during the budget process.
Got it. And listen, obviously, you and Kate are extremely well-versed on OpenGov and so forth, but that's what all of our department heads sort of use, right, to kind of help budget. Do you feel like they're all sort of trained in how to navigate around that? And
They're also, all the data comes from Munis, which is our financial system, and they all have access to that. They all have been trained on that. They know how to access their accounts. They notice, and when we do the budget training, we do go over, look at your actuals here. Here's how you can go into Munis and see all the transaction details so that you can analyze if those same types of expenses are going to occur going forward. So they're well versed in it. Some of them more so than others, but they're all capable.
okay. Yep. Any questions on the admin transfers?
I would just comment, I appreciate you bringing the 112 to our attention.
Okay, back down to item 5 now. Discuss or take action to request a transfer within the ARPA funds for various projects. This is on page
38.
Okay, Jen, do you want to?
Yeah. So this is a request to use $30,000 of ARPA contingency funds for landscaping items, primarily trees, shrubs, and some additional signage at Highland Farm. It was brought up with the ARPA committee as a potential project, so it did pass by them just as here, this is one that's hanging out there. And they did give their consent to move things forward to the Board of Selectmen. So what we're looking to do is replace about 15, we had some die-off of plants at Highland Farm, so we're looking to plant 15 new trees and 15 new shrubs, as well as do some improved signage. And we want to do the planting in the fall, which is why we're requesting the funds now.
How much of the 30 is to replace existing trees versus to add more?
That I don't know.
Do we know why they died?
I do not know that.
Well, I know this was discussed by the ARPA committee. I guess, Jen, just from a tracking perspective, one of the things, Highland Farms, we're a few years in now, I think, in terms of all the work that we've completed, and our residents are certainly getting used to it. When we transfers, whether it's in the ARPA fund, from the ARPA funds, or tax dollars, or other capital, do we track cumulatively, like all of what we've put into Highland Farms?
Not in a good way, no. We don't have one unique field or account, part of the account string where we can run it and say that's everything for Highland. We could get there, it would just take a little bit of work. It wouldn't be a quick and easy.
Yeah, I think one of the things, again, not to be done tonight, but as we think about sort of overall projects, I think and we're doing this on Great Island now, I think it would be good to keep, if as we begin to, going forward, capital projects, if there was a way to, when you moved it into an account, somehow have them accumulated. What are the capital investments going into, like, cherry lawn, pear tree, in this case, Highland, it's similar to what we're doing now, like on Pear Tree Point. I think it's helpful to.
Yeah, I'll have to think about that. We're a little bit limited in available fields for that, and with the chart of accounts already being established on many of the older projects. But I'll give some thought to how we can make it easier, because right now it would just be kind of search for everything that has the word Highland in it.
Yeah.
Who's in charge of these replantings? I thought it would be Parks and Rec, but no.
So Park and Rec has been involved, but for the most part, a lot of Highland Farm has been managed out of the town administrator's office. in conjunction with Park and Rec doing a lot of the grounds type work.
Because it's not a park.
Right.
I mean, I think Parks and Rec does programming on it, right, and so
Right.
forth. Yeah, I mean.
But technically, it's not a
designated
park under
Because
their
that brings a
umbrella.
lot of
Other,
requirements once it's designated as a park.
Yeah.
Right?
I think
Limits flexibility.
Yeah, things like, I think Edgerton and others are all sort of still town-owned land.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, just something, maybe if you could take a look at it, but, over the next few months or.
yeah, I can think about that. And it probably will, it might be something in the way that we set up the accounts when we start putting together the 25 capital budget and start creating some kind of a structure with those. But yeah, I'll think about it.
Yeah, I think it's also, I think, good advertising to show sort of what we're actually investing in all of these assets. Okay, so I will accept the motion to transfer $30,000 from the ARPA contingency budget into the Highland Farms landscaping budget. Rob moves. John seconds. All those in favor? Unanimous. Financial report, page 39.
All right, fiscal '24 is off to a good start. The expenditure side is nothing interesting. We have 2 months of expenditures, everything's tracking as expected. But on the revenue side, we completed our big collection period and the collection rate was consistent with last year, so tax collector is very pleased with that. And then also on the revenue side, investment income, we bumped up that budget significantly to 1.75 million. What you have on your sheet, the 335,000 was through July. At the time that we prepared it, we didn't have August booked, but that is now, and so we're at 805,000 805,000 through August.
Isn't that partially due to the M&T sweep?
It's mostly due to the M&T sweep account because we have a lot of cash that comes in July. We're very cash heavy, but that's going to draw down over the next 6 months. So we would expect that the rate that we're putting interest into there, into this line, is going to decrease until January. Then we'll see it go up again and it'll draw down to June.
Well, I think, so we're basically we're not quite halfway at budget, 2 months in.
Right. But it's also not going to be a straight line.
Yeah, no, understood, but I think
And that's a new product, too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think setting up, Joan sent around the email, I think setting up the sweep like that, I mean, that's a sort of scaffolding set of mechanics that you've set up that we now have in place.
And it works very well for cash management purposes. We don't have to keep moving money everywhere. We have a very solid rate at our operation bank that is easily accessible to run checks.
I think the work we did on that, remember, is it Joan that did all the work? We kind of phased it out. We kind of took I think we were started at like 1.6, we bumped it to 1.750.
Yep.
Looks like it's going to be, a pretty good number.
So that's it on the general fund. Early in the year, nothing really exciting or interesting.
Sorry, what's the sweep account earning again?
I think it's at 5%, high 4s or 5. Page 4 shows our state revenues. We're in pretty good position for our adopted budget versus what the state adopted budget was. No big surprises there, so we should be good on that front. No activity in the contingency accounts yet. And the other funds, beginning on page 6, they're all tracking as expected for the sewer fund, the parking fund, and then the recreation program fund and Great Island Management Fund.
Do we know whether the parking revenue is tracking to pre-COVID levels yet?
I don't know through August, but I'll take a look at that and I'll let you know next month. And then on active bonded projects, those are all moving along, no big surprises there. We'll start putting together a plan for an issue in either early time of 2024, so winter, springtime. The HHR, as we all know, is on hold, so the roughly 21 million that we have in bans on those will just be sitting in the Chase account for the time being. And then hopefully by the time we're ready to go out to the bond market, we'll have an idea of what's going on with HHR and either issue new bans or figure out what we need to do in terms of cash for those.
And Jen, in terms of like the spend down provisions, I mean, you know, it feels like right now HR is 6-ish months.
Because they're
behind.
bans, there are not spend down requirements on it.
Great.
Is there any significant investment earnings on the cash sitting around for that long? Or?
Just under 3% on that account.
That's what it's earning?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. That's
Is that all
actually,
we're allowed to do?
it's actually
Yeah,
more
it's-
than, it's more than we borrowed at.
Yeah.
So it's.
Yeah, the
it's-
arbitrage yield was like 3.1 something. So we're in very good shape with that. Great Island Acquisition Fund, beginning on page 14. There was a request last month to add a column that shows what we spent in the last month. So if this works for you, great. If you're looking for a slightly different presentation, let me know. But we had expended 85.8 million through last report, and in the month since, we've spent $58,000.
This is very helpful, thank you.
Okay, and so of the total borrowings, we have about 5.9 million still unspent.
Where's that number?
Very bottom of page 14 in the available column, we have 53 million,
Oh, right, right.
53,000 from the original acquisition, and then about 5.8 million for the post-closing expenditures. And then beginning on page 15, we have ARPA expenditures. And again, we added a column to show what's been spent in the month since the last report. We've spent about $25,000 since then. Between what we have spent so far, which is about 1.3 million, we have $826,000 encumbered, which would be considered obligated under the terms of the grant. We have about 4.3 million still unobligated. But we did have a department head meeting, and I have reminded all of the departments that even if we don't typically, our town policy doesn't require a PO for certain things, that for ARPA purposes, they need to be putting in a PO for everything so that we can track what's obligated. So I think we'll see that obligated encumbered number go up a bit next month as people get those in.
This is random, and it was way up earlier, but on the reserves balances page, the administrative reserve is at like $2,175. I thought that was larger than that.
We started with,
35.
was it 35? I was going 30, 35, something like that. And
Yeah.
we've had it for a couple years.
Oh, so we just haven't replenished?
We haven't replenished it.
Oh.
Kate and I really haven't. There've been a couple things that came up, but I don't think it's been used as much as we anticipated it was going to be used. So we haven't felt the need to replenish it.
But in a couple of years, you've gone from 30 or 35 down to 2.
Yeah, we had, I think there were 2 significant draws on it over the course of 2 years.
And you don't think you need to put some money back in there?
I don't think so.
With only 2,000?
Honestly, you guys meet often enough,
Yeah.
and there aren't that many things that come up.
Yeah. I thought when we did it, we if 35,000 was the number that we started, I thought there was like discussion about when it got down below 10 or so
Yeah,
that
that
we
we would replenish.
reappropriate it, or sorry, I guess re-sub-allocate it within the general, our capital reserve.
We certainly can,
Yeah.
but neither Kate or I have really felt that there's a pressing need for it.
Okay.
What were the couple of big things we did with it? I don't remember. Don't worry, if it's not
I'm
easily
thinking it was like,
recallable.
we might have used it for 16,000 for the Hanson Road Bridge for immediate. And then there was one other thing, like the year before, I can't remember what it was.
I can't believe it was that long ago that we did that. It feels like
It's been a
it's
while.
embarrassing.
It's not done either.
What?
I say it's not done.
And that's all that I have on the report.
What do I have to say about that?
Oh, I will quickly touch back on fiscal '23. I gave you the more in-depth summary on that last month. We've had the auditors, they were on site last week, they were working remotely the week before. Very minor shifts on some things that we looked back over before we turned over the book. So we're still looking at about a $2.9 million increase in fund balance, which will put us around 30.3 million, which is 18.35%, which is 10.5 million in excess of our 12% minimum. And it's still about a $3.7 million better than budget on revenue, which offsets all but $92,000 that we appropriated from fund balance throughout the year. So that's a pretty even match. And then on the expenditure side, we're about 2.2 million better than budget on the town side and about 800,000 on BOE. And that breakdown is still the same as what I gave you last month.
Maybe just while we're on the financial side, in terms of our current fiscal year, the Board of Ed, sort of reports each month. Right now, their budget is about $600,000, trending over more than what was expected. The majority of that change is related to just some out-of-district tuition, which is then reduced by the excess cost grant. That was sort of the largest piece. Again, things are sort of unpredictable, if you will. And then the other piece was just what they factor in for turnover. There was less savings there, so less, if you will, sort of teachers or staff leaving at this level and being replaced with staff at this level. So that's trending down. This is all as of the end of August, so it can certainly move around a lot, but 600,000 in the context of a much larger budget.
We're often running with class sizes, no breaks, no additions.
Class sizes, I think there were 1 or 2 classes less than what they expected. But again, things are all just sort of, this is as of the end of August, so, savings that may exist in other accounts are just beginning to percolate. There was some savings in healthcare and so forth, but.
And is the 600 in out-of-district tuition expected to be offset by
That
some
600
amount,
is
or
the
that's
net amount. That's a net amount. About 80% of that was related to out-of-district tuition, and the other sort of 20% net was related to a whole bunch of netting of everything from healthcare savings expectations to electricity, things like that. Next item is to review and approve the minutes from the August 15th meeting. Apologies I was not able to be here. Luckily you were replaced with a very elegant sitting chair. So any comments on the August 15th minutes? Okay, I'll accept the motion to entertain a motion to accept the August 15th minutes. Rob moves, John seconds. All those in favor? Unanimous. Next up is the special committee and assignments. Why don't we start left to right, Rob?
Yeah, it sounds like the audit started.
It did.
I'll be looking.
It's actually really good. I think I've told you guys before that their scheduling is a little different because they have some staff challenges, a lot of vacancies, so they've had to schedule all of their engagements a little bit differently, which required us to really stick to their schedule. It was a bit of a push to get everything turned over to them throughout August, but I think we're on track, and we'll have the audit maybe late November, early December is what it's looking like right now, which is consistent with where we've been, and I think it's a bit of an accomplishment given what their challenges are.
So 2 comments. Is this the first time that they're actually on premise since the pandemic, or did they come last year?
No, they came last year, and they were out here for a couple days for preliminary work in July.
And second, I think the staffing issues that they have, I think I talk about this every time, is across the industry, in the accounting industry. I'm going through an audit right now. There was 2 gentlemen supposed to be on there, they had a 3-week window. Couldn't get the results to them. They got taken by somebody else and they got pushed off.
Yep.
Or is out 4 weeks. So it's across mid-sized firms, large firms, it's across the spectrum.
Yeah, so if we don't stick with their schedule,
Yeah.
that's what's going to happen to us. We're going to get pushed to the back of the line for when they do have time.
My experience, that's been very rare, but now it's becoming really prevalent. You have to get your time slotted in, get it done in that time, or you're going to lose staff. At least because you want consistency in your staff. People that recognize your tendencies, your business, even, here, I think there's generally, that's the same senior partner.
Yep.
Right, or senior, yeah, she's a partner. So keeping that consistency is great. It's amazing.
So you're suggesting I go back to work?
I just said that.
You'd be in demand, John.
It was right into it. I was just waiting.
Yeah.
I lofted it up for you.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there's quite a few vacancies. Thank you, Jen.
You're welcome.
Jen, last time we met, you mentioned the status of the DPW negotiations. Can you bring us up to date?
As far as I know, there is no change. I haven't heard that the union has ratified it yet, but once they do, we'll bring it through the boards.
Okay.
Maybe just a short update, David Martin's not able to be here tonight, but he's on the HHR committee. If you guys have been following sort of the meetings and some of the updates here, they've gone back, not necessarily redesigned any of the projects and so forth, but changed the bidding format, the bidding timeline, and some of the construction timeline, all based on sort of feedback and I think a sort of top-down review they did of the bids they received, where they received multiple bids, what sort of trades were single bid, the mechanics by which they accepted bids, bid on 1, bid on 2, bid on all 3 schools and so forth. I think there's a lot of time and effort put into that, and they're planning to go out to rebid in the next really couple weeks here. And their plan is to go out, submit all the documents, collect new bids, and then based on those new bids, should they have to come back for any increased appropriation from the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and RTM, they would do that after they've received the firm bid. So in that case, we would know sort of exactly what the costs are and if there's any increase above what we were originally expecting. So I know David's certainly doing a lot of work on that, and he'll give us more of an update in our October meeting when we'll actually know. I think we'll have the bids back by that meeting. Other things, myself and Dan are both actually working with the Board of Ed on the administrator's contract. This is the sort of principals, assistant superintendents, and other administrative functions. I think there's 36 in total in that union. I think we've had...
That was 46. Is it 36?
Somewhere between 36,
Somewhere between 35 and 50. But it's not the superintendent.
Yes, it's not the superintendent and his sort of cabinet, if you will. Though
Right. They're
not part of any unions. Right. So I think we've had a few meetings. We have another one coming up Thursday evening. I think the conversation's been very engaging. The 4 Board of Ed members that are on that, I think, are all very engaged. Where Shipman and Goodwin represents us, and I think things are moving along.
Which attorney from Shipman?
Tom Mooney. So he's, I think represented the district for many, many years, and I think he's...
he's a top educational lawyer in the state.
Yeah, I think we're fortunate to have him.
And pay him well.
Yes. So I think that's it. That's it from my side. Dan, anything?
Just on Oxbridge, kids are back at school. The buildings are essentially 100% complete. There's punch list work being done, and that'll continue for weeks or months. And the financials won't close out until sometime next year. The only thing that is kind of ongoing is some site work. There's some design concerns with the way the slide came out on the playground, so we're kind of maybe going back to the drawing board on that. And then that may require some further softening of the steepness of some hills. So, but that's about it.
Great. Tyler? Paul?
It really isn't a committee report, but last night I attended the Board of Selectmen meeting. The PR guy from Aquarian was there, and he presented basically a PR presentation. Monica and I testified last year about this time about their 27% rate increase request over several years. That got, well, it actually ended up being defeated is the wrong word, but reduced less than zero, and they have appealed that, which I disagree with, since they represent about 2% of Eversource's revenues. And if you look through their 10K, their net income is about 17% of revenue. So they'll continue to go forward and keep you updated. Also, I reviewed the finance and budget tape from their meeting on the 6th of September. They discussed arbitrage of our bonds, and I know Jim's been involved in that, and if you could just update the board as to if we're proceeding on that, or...
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things I think we'll maybe look into as we get closer to this next bond issue. The yield curve is in an interesting slope right now where there could be some opportunities there. But I think ultimately need to make sure that the opportunities are commensurate with all the additional work that would go into it. So I think I think we'll maybe know more.
But one of the members of their board said it wasn't, the incremental income wasn't worth the effort or the record keeping. I just don't know. So,
yeah. So I didn't get to watch last night's meeting, but I'll take a look at it.
okay.
Chairman's reports. I would just make note that over the weekend I was invited by the Norotan Fire Department to attend the christening of the new Marine Unit 34. This is the new 34-foot safe fireboat that you may have seen some pictures about online and so forth. Well, they've had it for a couple months. Over the last couple months, they've done extensive training on it and so forth. And so on Sunday, down at the dock in Ziegler's Cove, they had a small ceremony led by Chief Keane. All of the Norotan Fire Department was there. A lot of the other chiefs were there. The Darien Police Marine Unit brought their boat over. And one of our, Pastor Dahl, actually said a blessing, and then it was christened with a bottle of champagne, not broken over top of it, but just squirted. And a prayer was said, and then when the old boat actually kind of left, and if you will, wet down the new boat. But it was a couple things I would say, a very nice event to attend on a beautiful day. A couple things to note. This was all paid for by private funds that they raised over the last, 5+ years. And this is replacing the existing boat that had, that was put in place in 1989 when they really first created, if you will, sort of the first kind of full dedicated fireboat. It was also nice as they said a few things. One of the things that actually allowed that first Marine fireboat to kind of take place was they needed someplace to put it. And at the time, the Steinkraus family opened up their docks, their private dock down there, which was could fit it, and it was also sort of the most directly and close location from that fire department. And I know that the town now owns that island, but it was, I think, 34 years that they allowed the town to keep the fireboat there and maintain electricity and water and everything down there. So it was they gave nice thanks to Ned and his family for doing that. So it was a very nice event.
Thank you.
So no new business. Anything else in new business from anyone? Okay, I'll accept the motion to adjourn. Rob moves, Dan seconds. All those in favor? We stand adjourned.